Good morning, everyone. A welcome to additional helpful session with our most respected Swami Lakshmi Narayan ji. Thank you for joining us today for the webinar session on the topic Managing Stress During Uncertain Times, Part 2. It's my honor to introduce Swami Lakshmi Narayan ji, our guest speaker from Vedanta Academy. Swami Lakshmi Narayan ji is a senior disciple of Swami Partha Sarthi ji. He organizes public lectures and seminars on various topics related to philosophy of Vedanta. For the first 30-40 minutes, Swamiji will share his wisdom on the topic, and the next 20 minutes have been kept for question and answer session. If you have any question during the presentation, please type them into the question and answer chat window at the bottom panel, and your question will be answered during the question and answer session by Swamiji. Your mic is on mute during the entire session. You will be allowed to talk during the question and answer session only. Handing over to Swamiji.
Thanks, Karuna, and good morning, all of you. So last week we had started discussing about stress. So there we had discussed that stress is nothing but our response at the body level to a true, real, or imagined threat to our existence, identity, survival, desire, etc. So this is what we had discussed, and I'm just doing a little bit of recap because I didn't complete the session on stress because this is a little deeper subject. So I thought we will continue for 2 or 3 sessions. So we had started the definition of stress with this, that when there is some kind of a threat externally, that triggers a certain mental reaction which produces certain chemicals in our body. And it is for our survival. So essentially we all have come from jungles. We were hunters and gatherers before. So when we were hunter-gatherers there, we don't know whether we'll find food or we'll become food. So in such a situation, for our survival, the mechanism is set like this. So I was explaining to you, like, in case you had stamped on something and you feel like it is snake, you don't even have time to look down whether it is snake or not, to ascertain whether it is snake or not. So the chemicals are secreted in the body, the adrenaline is pumped in so that you get ready to fight or flight, so that you can survive. So this is basically for survival mechanism. But what has happened in modern condition, if you see, 90% of our stress is imagined. It's not real. Like, for example, now coronavirus pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic is going on now. The threat is, virus is a threat, no doubt. But this is only about 10%, I would say. 90% of it is our imagined threat. I'm going to lose my job, somebody from my family will die, or I myself may die. I start imagining things like that. Then that creates, chemicals in my body. Then when my body is constantly soaked in such chemicals, it has long-term effect on my body. It creates a lot of disease and all kinds of issues I go through. So therefore, this is stress. And where is it located? It is actually from within. So we generally give this example: when you throw potato, which is hard, in boiling water, and egg, which is loose, in boiling water being same, potato, which is hard, becomes soft, and egg, which is loose, becomes hard. So situation being same, how we react changes from person to person. So ultimately, stress is nothing but a reaction which is happening within us. And that depends entirely on the quality of our mind and intellect inside. So stress is something that the source of it is within us. It's not without. So throughout the world, they're trying to fix the solution externally. By trying to change the situation, you don't become absolutely stress-free. Temporarily, when you change things, it will become better. But the root cause is within you, which is the poor quality of mind and intellect, poor quality of your inner personality. So therefore, the source of stress is within. And then we go through 3 transactions of life: receipt of stimuli, reaction from within, and response back to the world. And this I explained with this diagram, where if you see, the receipt of stimuli comes from the sense organs, goes to the mind, mind is full of likes and dislikes, desires. It reacts with them. Then most of the time I send out response impulsively without really taking the guidance of my intellect, which reasons and judges and analyzes as to what is good for me. So I'm not sending out proactive response. More or less, I'm sending out only impulsive response. And I'm getting caught in this stress. This is how the whole thing works. So therefore, if we really want to deal with stress, we need to understand the human personality a little bit. So in that context, I said a human being is an integrated personality where he or she is not just the physical body. We are a combination of physical body and thoughts, enlivened by the real self. And our real self is covered by the outer sheath called the foot sheath, then the inner sheath called the mental sheath. But between this, there is another sheath called vital air sheath, pranas. So this physical body is not our full personality. It is only the external surface. And it's called as food sheath because it is produced by the food digested by the parents. And it is maintained by the food we eat and digest. And it is food for the other species. Therefore, it's called food sheath. Then comes the physiological functions, pranas. So that's the pranic sheath called vital air sheath in English. And then comes mental sheath, emotion sheath. Then comes intellectual sheath, thinking sheath. Then comes bliss sheath, which I said could be in this context be categorized as subconscious level. Then deep inside all that is our true self, a real personality. So if we really want to deal with stress, we need to take care of all the sheaths. So therefore I said, let us start from the outer. We have decided, we have concluded, not decided, concluded that the stress is within. So how are we going to deal with it? First, let's start at the foot sheath level, I said. So at the foot sheath level, what are we supposed to do? That we saw. First thing, take care of your food habits, what you eat. And when we say what we eat, right now I am sticking to the diet, but also what kind of thoughts you eat. That is also important. So in food sheath, mainly what kind of diet you eat, what do you eat, how much do you eat, how often do you eat, when do you eat, how do you eat it? All this, I said, you need to change in your lifestyle system. We should not live, to eat. We should just eat to live. So food is what we consume. So let it be something qualitative. And it has to be in regulation. So it's like this. A car is fitted with engine and there is axle and there is every other part. Apart from that, there is petrol. So petrol, let us say, is like our real self. An engine is our mind and intellect. And physical body of the car is just the outer sheath. Now, if the engine is in good condition, petrol is from the best petrol pump, all that is fine. But if the car axle is broken, or if one of the tires have gone flat, the car won't move. So therefore, though you take care of the engine, which is very important and all that is there, still the physical body of the car also needs to be maintained, cleaned, properly checked and serviced. Similarly, the physical body we need to start with. Therefore, I was talking about food. Then I talked about sleep. Today, I'll be talking about sleep a little more in depth. So I'm skipping that now. Then I talked about exercise. Exercising the body for at least 45 minutes to 1 hour. So whether it could be yoga, pranayama, aerobics, or walking, jogging, whatever you're comfortable, but minimum 45 minutes to 1 hour on a daily basis, you must dedicate, because what happens is, whatever stress you've accumulated so far, that chemicals which are there in the body, you're giving an opportunity to throw it out when you go for a good walk. And even when we talk about walking, I would suggest you are better off walking in nature than going to a gym and walking. But if you have no option, you're going to gym, that's fine. But therefore, this walking, jogging, and all that helps in removing the negative chemicals like cortisol, adrenaline, and all that. And then the good chemicals like endorphins and all start secreting when you go for a good walk. So that helps in managing stress. And then another important point I said last week was sense control, general control of what goes in, how much we eat, what we see, how much we see. Going on continuously watching movies is also not good, or not watching at all is also not good. So we need to maintain a certain regulated lifestyle, what I said. So in that context, I quoted everything in moderation, including moderation. So this much we saw. In today's slide, if you see here, I've added one more, which is action. So I will come to the sleep and action in a while. But first, let's understand. That's why I stopped here last week. Food, sleep, exercise, sense control. And with reference to sleep, I said last week that when your mind is too much disturbed, obviously you can't go to sleep or you will not have quality sleep. All that is fine. We'll deal with it a little later, I said. But first, at least, when it is bedtime, unnecessarily straining your eyes by watching these videos in mobiles or, getting involved in these kind of stuff, which unnecessarily triggers the nerves. If you're the blue light from your gadgets go and disturb the pineal gland, it secretes a certain chemicals which keeps you awake. And whenever your sleep is disturbed or not, you're not having proper sleep, good amount of sleep or quality sleep, that is also a very big danger for stress. So that is why I said today, let us spend a little bit more time on sleep. Then I'll come to this action part of it. So when we talk about sleep, they talk about REM cycle, rapid eye movement cycle. See, when we sleep for approximately 7 to 8 hours every night, we go through around 4 to 5 REM cycles, they say. In this sleep, what is happening is, first, as soon as we go to sleep, it's a light sleep. And then little deeper light sleep. And then we go to deep sleep. And after deep sleep comes dream. Then again after dream, this cycle continues. This is one cycle. Light sleep, lighter deep sleep, then deep sleep, and then dream. This is one cycle. Now this one cycle of REM is approximately 1 to 1.5 hours, they say. So like this, if you sleep for about 8 hours, you would have covered 4 to 5 REM cycles every night when you sleep. Now in this, both the deep sleep and dream are essential, especially dream. And with reference to deep sleep, I guess science is still not understood too much about it. But one thing what they talk about whenever they talk about deep sleep and they do the experiments with the rats and all, now with certain probes and all that, you can find out when our system is going to deep sleep or dream, etc. So when they do this experiment, when the rat is going through deep sleep, they wake up the rat. So they do this kind of experiment on the rat for a while. Then what happens when the rat has had disturbed sleep or no deep sleep for 10 days or 15 days, it dies. So a human being, if continuously for 10 or 15 days we don't sleep at all, we will die. This much we know about deep sleep. Maybe a few more things we know, but not too much. So deep sleep is also essential for our survival. It's like, if you're in your company also, if you have machines, if it's constantly running, it's not good. It will destroy. So therefore you give gap. Okay, it's been running for a long time. Let us give it a little bit of a gap. So rest is needed. So that way, deep sleep is very important. Also dream. Dream is more important when it comes to stress. See, what is dream? The unfulfilled thoughts and desires and emotions in our waking state, which requires some kind of a release, and it is mounting with certain pressure, comes out as dream at night. It is like you have too many papers on your desk. And if you keep on leaving it like that, as every day the tray is getting filled with a lot more, letters that you need to attend to, and you are not looking at it at all, it looks so chaotic. But one day you decide, and what do? You take all the papers, go through one by one, and then put them in proper files in a proper order. Then things become clear. Similarly, on a daily basis, from the time we wake up till the time we go to bed, there's a lot of experiences we go through. And when we go through these experiences, we have certain things fulfilled, many things unfulfilled. And in these things which are not so fulfilled, not everything is disturbing you, but there are certain things that are disturbing you more, there are certain things that are disturbing you less. So imagine every night you are going to bed with a lot of unattended papers, unattended emotions. Like that, you are going to sleep with unattended emotions. So what nature does is, these emotions, these thoughts which are unfulfilled, what it does is, in the dream, it relives everything. So what apparently science says, without going into too much of technical words, chemical words and all that, apparently what it does, it seems, is neck down temporarily paralyzes us. And then in our brain, we go through these experiences in our dream. So in the REM cycle that I talked about, in the first REM cycle, the deep sleep is the dream is only for about 6 to 7 minutes. In the second REM cycle, the dream is a little longer. And the third and fourth, it keeps increasing. Apparently, in the fourth and fifth REM cycle, it is almost for about half an hour or so. So we get up from the fourth or fifth REM cycle, dream, after that we get up. That is why that dream which we had last and we got up, most probably we may remember a few things. But there are other dreams which we went through in between, we will not remember, mostly. So what these dreams do is, they kind of relive these experiences. It has made you unconscious from neck down, and in your brain, you're going through all this whole thoughts and emotions in the dream. And it gets resolved. Because, and also again and again, when you, certain things gets resolved, and certain things again and again when you go through, the stress factor that is associated with it, those chemicals and all that starts reducing. So therefore, dream is essential. So now, in modern lifestyle, what we do? We compromise on sleep, late night parties. Once in a while, I can understand. But on a regular basis, what we are doing is, we are coming and working for 5 days, Monday to Friday, but we are actually looking forward to Friday evenings. And Friday, Saturday, we keep on enjoying. And then again, Monday morning, we go to work, lethargic. Somehow we pull ourselves and then work the 5 days and then again come. So basically, we think it's good thing for us to keep awake and then enjoy. And we compromise on our sleep, and on a daily basis also, if you sleep, our lifestyle is such that our sleep is heavily compromised. So that is why I said last week, you need to set an alarm to go to bed. Don't worry about getting up, because when your body is sufficiently rested, it will automatically wake you up. So don't worry about setting alarm now. You be concerned about going to bed. So if you go to bed by around 9:30 or so, 2.5 hours before that, you should have had your dinner, last meal. And at least 1.5 hours before that, you should have stopped watching all the gadgets. And then when you come and lie down, or just before lying down, it is better that you, if at all you have some reading habits, start reading certain things which are light, but which are not negative or which will not produce any negativity in you. You know, just to keep your curiosity kindled and all that, to get into a lot of gossips and stuffs like that, that is not good for you. So those things which are good for you, those kind of things you get in, but definitely not the gadgets. So thus, dream is associated with memory, intelligence, and all that. That is why even for school students, whenever I address school children, I always say, don't compromise on your sleep. Don't compromise on your exercise. And especially for children, exercise in the form of sports should never compromise. And in the name of studying and scoring well in schools and colleges, what the parents do is they cut this. They cut the exercise. They say, don't play. Doesn't matter, don't sleep. They take pride in saying, my children don't sleep. They sleep only at 11 o'clock. They get up at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock and study. They take pride in that. But actually, it's not good. On a daily basis, if they study, prepare, educate themselves with proper understanding, they study, then if they just revise, there is enough time. But this kind of thing only is going to add to your stress life. So therefore, please understand the importance of sleep, and in sleep, the dream and deep sleep. Therefore, minimum 4 to 5 REM cycles you need. So never compromise on that. So if you don't sleep, the emotions and thoughts that gets resolved in your dream, that opportunity is denied. So to that extent, you are going to be more stressful. The body parts are going to be soaked in those chemicals even more. It is going to be detrimental for you. So when you take away sleep and exercise from your life, and also throw your eating habits, you are going to reduce your immunity like anything. And automatically all kinds of disease will come to you. Because they will say, yeah, there is somebody who is opening the door and inviting us. Why not go and stay in their body for a while? This is what happens to us. And if you see the modern lifestyle, we compromise on all this. All our foods are mostly junk food. In the name of fast food, everything is fast. This lecture I should have finished yesterday. This is what people say. That fast you should work. Everybody is in a hurry. So in my classes, when I do the spiritual classes, there I say this. If you are in a hurry, you can never meet Hari. Hari means Lord. You cannot meet Hari. Lord meaning the peace or the inner self. So if you really want to manage stress, and one more thing they've added, during these uncertain times, for which I said every time is uncertain. Time means it's uncertain. Nobody knows what will happen. As I'm talking, suddenly power cut can happen. Anything can happen. So we need to prepare. And this is very important that we understand not to compromise on our sleep, eating habits, and then exercise. Having said that, and one more thing I've added, if you see in the end here, is action. Because action is done at the body level. Therefore, I've added it in the foot sheet. They say, idle mind is a devil's workshop. See, there are people who exercise, but generally in their life, they are not that active. 1 hour they exercise. The rest of the time, most of the time, just listening to YouTube, watching videos, and waiting for somebody to come and give them a cup of coffee or a glass of water. Or even if somebody is ringing the bell, they call the help at home to go and open the door, rather than they getting up and opening the door. You got to keep yourself busy. Busy, I don't mean like chicken without head. You need to be working, physically active. You know, a lot of people associate Vedanta with retirement. So we keep on re-emphasizing this, that Vedanta is nothing to do with retirement. Vedanta is something that will get you into action. But while acting, how to rest. That is what it will teach you. Intense work is rest. When somebody asked Swami Ramtita, what is rest? He immediately said, intense work is rest. What is this intense work? When will that work become rest? We will discuss all that. But first, you need to understand action is the insignia of life. Inaction is death. If you rest, you will rest. Any part of your body, if you don't keep it functioning, it will perish. So, in fact, I used to remember all the phone numbers by heart without putting in much effort. Now, ever since we started using these mobile phones and all their numbers are stored in, if somebody is asking my number, I need to think a little bit. So, because we are not using that faculty, so therefore, apart from the rest you have given in the form of sleep, you need to keep your body active. So when you go to work, don't think you are working for this person, that person, for this family member or the, somebody else in the company. Understand you are doing good for yourself. So you need to keep yourself active. In fact, the secret of longevity is working for a goal, for a purpose. Healthy longevity. So one needs to have some, engagement throughout the day. Of course, it needs to be unselfish. I'll talk about all that slowly. But first thing, you make sure you're not remaining idle. If you remain idle, then you come back to our definition of stress. Imagination. That starts. You will start imagining too many things. But at least when you have work, that imagining will reduce. Now, this is why during COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of people are going through a lot more stress. Why? Because they're working from home and lots of distraction. And working from home means not necessarily they're working continuously. Either they're overworked or they're underworked. And majority are underworked. So what happens is they're sitting idle and their mind is going into all kinds of things. It gets into all kinds of imaginations. And once that imagination you start feeding, then the stress response in the body will come. So that is why it's extremely important not to keep you idle. We need to move away from idle lifestyle, ideally lifestyle. And then from that, we have come to another lifestyle which is also deadly. What is that? Constant running. Run. Get this, get that. Propelled by greed, selfish, wanting to acquire. What will I get? What will I get? I. So the whole thing is I want to fulfill my desire. I am running for that. So therefore, we need to understand that there are three types of actions. What are they? Selfish, unselfish, selfless. So one set of people, they're idle, they don't act. Other set of people, they are acting, but they're acting selfishly, egoistically, egocentrically. So these egocentric actions, they destroy you. They create problems for you. Therefore, we say, got to get into unselfish. And then, if possible, move to the next level, which is selfless. So I will talk about these things a little later. But first, I just wanted you to understand, apart from taking care of your food, sleep, exercise, and regulation, what I call as sense control, apart from that, you should maintain an active lifestyle. And it is for your good. Not that somebody is trying to, keep you active so that you will be exploited. I'm not saying, become so stupid that somebody can exploit you. No, but keep yourself active, dynamic. See, those days everywhere, wherever people went, they either went by walk or they went by bicycle or maximum by bus. So you need to walk to the bus station, and then in the bus also, not necessarily every time you'll get the seat, you might have to stand and then get down and walk to the colleague's house or the company. There was a lot of walking involved in our life. Now, if you see, ever since that motorcycle came and then cars came, our whole active living is gone. So generally what people do is they'll go for exercise and then 45 minutes to 1 hour they exercise. But also very few people. And then they only take the lift. Even if your house is on the second floor, they take the lift. For what? You can use the staircase. This is what I mean by active lifestyle. You can use a staircase to go to the first floor or the second floor. Or if your office is 10th floor, you can walk 1 or 2 floors and then take lift for next 8 floors. It's possible. You can do that. That thought has to come. My session today would be successful if I'm able to introduce the thought into you. That action is the insignia of life. Inaction is death. River is constantly flowing. Therefore, there is life. There is life. There is energy. You can produce electricity from it. But in a pond, the water is stagnant. It is dead. The water, there is no possibility of life there. They perish. The water also evaporates. It collects dirt. So therefore, constantly active and giving rest. So if you balance this, whatever I discussed just now, food, sleep, exercise, sense control, action, and if you balance all this, too much action is also not good. Too little action also not good. Too much rest also not good. Too little rest also not good. But if you balance. Similarly, of course, we need to eat as much as possible nutritious food. But, once in a while, we also need to get it to our mind. We also need to eat for the taste. But when it becomes too much, then it is just poison that we are consuming. So once in a while, if you have to contact fast food and all that, it's okay. So if you take care of these things, you have addressed the food sheet very well. Then after the food sheet is the prana sheet, the vital air sheet. Now, like I showed you in the diagram, this vital air sheet is that which is between the mental sheet and the food sheet. So, through the vital air sheet, you can control the food sheet, and through the vital air sheet, you can create a conducive effect on the mind. See, when the mind is disturbed, supposing something is bothering you and you're mentally disturbed, it disturbs the physiological functions and your food sheet also goes for a toss. You will have all kinds of problems. Some people have the hiccups. Some people have constant coughing. Some people have diarrhea. All kinds of effects the body goes through. Even you are sitting in an air-conditioned room, you will be sweating profusely when your mind is disturbed. So when the mind is disturbed, it has an effect on the prana body, which is vital air sheet, and the food sheet. And when you take care of the food sheet and vital air sheet, you can have a conducive effect on the mind sheet. Therefore, we need to work on the pranic body as well, what we call as vital air sheet. And in this, we need to do this exercise called pranayama. Pranayama means control. Prana, controlling our pranas, the breath. See, they say thoughts ride on the breath. You can see when your mind is disturbed, you'll have heavy breathing. Heavy breathing. But when you're calm, composed, it is not that. So, therefore, they said, why not we try through pranas? So, in pranayama, they teach you to have long exhalation. And long exhalation, like I talked about that, the nervous system, in that there is what is called as sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. When we are stressed, the sympathetic nervous system is triggered and then it produces adrenaline, cortisol, etc. But if you want to reverse that, what you need to do is, you need to do pranayama. When you do pranayama, in pranayama, they try to have an extended exhalation, longer exhalation. So they teach you, when you inhale for 4 counts, exhale for 8 counts. Inhale through the left nostril slowly for 4 counts. Then exhale through the right nostril for 8 counts. Then inhale through the right nostril for 4 counts. Then exhale through the left nostril for 8 counts. Now, I'm not going into deeper pranayama techniques and all that, because those things you are better off learning from a proper guru. Because actual pranayama has got what is called as Purakam, Kumbhakam, Rechakam. Taking the breath in, holding it, and exhaling. And this holding, when you inhale, there is a holding, which is called Antara Kumbhakam. There is holding, when you exhale, it's called Bahya Kumbhakam. So, Rechakam, Antara Kumbhakam, then Purakam, Bahya Kumbhakam, etc. All these are there. So, you don't worry about all that. A simple thing you do every day for 10 to 20 minutes. If you can't do 20 minutes continuously in the morning, do 10 minutes in the morning, do 10 minutes in the evening. You're better off doing when your stomach is relatively empty. So you keep your fingers like this, in this position with your little finger and ring finger up, the other 2 fingers down, your thumb extended like this. With your thumb, close your right nostril, inhale through your left nostril. Do it for 4 counts. And then close your left nostril and exhale through the right nostril for 8 counts, slowly. So the exhalation should be twice the count of inhalation. Now, when you do this, keep your awareness on the breathing in and breathing out. So there is focus coming in here, awareness coming in, and breathing out, going, and having a breathing out longer than breathing in. Why this is? Because when you do longer exhalation, the parasympathetic nervous system gets kicked in, which means it relaxes your nervous system, and finally it is conducive for the mind to relax. That is why whenever a child gets disturbed, wants something and starts throwing tantrum and lying down and crying, I want that, I want that, I want that. Parents don't know how to handle the child. So I tell them, just relax, instead of getting perturbed, everybody is seeing and getting agitated, just relax, coolly get the child up, and then tell the child, okay, whatever you want, we'll discuss. I'm not saying no to it, let us discuss that, but just relax. And when the child is listening to that, then you give a child a glass of water. Let the child drink the glass of water, slowly relax. And then tell the child, breathe normally. Just breathe normally, no pranayama, nothing. Just breathe. Okay, now talk. Okay, you want to talk? Okay, let us have a conversation. Now the child is available for a conversation. But when the child was throwing tantrums and disturbed, if you try to talk to the child is not available for the discussion. Similarly, our mind, when it is stressed, it helps if you do this pranayama. And if you can make it on a daily basis, which is nothing but longer exhalation. You got it now? See, for example, whenever you talk, you only talk when you exhale. You can't talk when you're inhaling. Try saying hello to me when you're inhaling. You can't. You can't say hello. When you're saying hello means you are exhaling. So whenever we are disturbed and we go and share with our friends or with our family or with somebody whom we respect, or if we go to a psychologist or somebody, we go and share our thoughts, what is happening is, first of all the nonsense from our thoughts we are emptying. And secondly, we have been talking. So the psychologist allows you to talk. So when you talk, you're exhaling, having longer exhalation session. Then you relax. When you relax, whatever suggestions your friends may give or your well-wishers may give or that psychologist gives, it works. In fact, you are receptive for those suggestions, and sometimes those suggestions you yourself know. So you agree with them and then you start following. So therefore, pranayama helps sufficiently in managing stress. So I would like to stop here today with this, understand that you need to focus on all these points, what we discussed so far. Food, sleep, exercise, sense control, and not keeping your body idle. Get into active lifestyle and let it be unselfish and selfless, not selfish. And then I talked about the importance of dream and deep sleep, especially dream. So don't ever compromise on sleep. Never do that. Once in a while, I can understand. Once in a while, you want to go for a late night movie. Obviously, during Corona, it's not possible. But it's possible at night watching TV, spending till 1 o'clock, you sleep at 1 o'clock and then get up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, or maybe at 7 o'clock, not having enough sleep, all disturbed sleeps, etc. In this context, I wanted to say one more thing. A lot of people, when they're not able to sleep, they think they'll sleep by taking pills or taking alcohol, etc. See, all these things will induce you to go to sleep, but it will compromise on the quality of your sleep. People get up with hangover. So those are not the right solution. Right solution is to understand the importance of it and do the necessary things to go to sleep. In fact, if possible, in the evening, around 2 hours before you go to sleep, if you can have a walk for about 20 minutes or so, and then have little shower and have your dinner, and then go off to sleep after 2 hours, your body will cooperate for you to go to sleep. Of course, all these are at the external level. There is certain things I need to talk at the mind level and the intellect level. That I will do in the next session, third session. But in these 2 sessions, I'm again and again emphasizing, start with the gross. Then let's move to the subtle. Because moving from the subtle becomes difficult. So let's start from the gross. But understand, ultimately, it needs to come from the subtle. So that part, we'll keep it in the next week. So with this, let's stop here today. If you have any questions now, you can ask. Anyone has any question?
Hello, Swamiji.
Yes.
I'm Sarath speaking. And just now you mentioned that about selfish, unselfish actions. So in this COVID times, we are almost 24 hours inside a house. So, and deciding on actions. So we normally do all sorts of action, but how do we decide which is selfish, which is unselfish?
No, when I say unselfish, you see, now you're at home. You have an opportunity to help your spouse in maybe cleaning the house or washing vessels, or anything for that matter. Unselfish doesn't mean that you have to go and work for some NGO. Change the attitude. Then the attitude is changed. Same thing you can do. See, I'm teaching now. I've been teaching for this MPS group for almost now, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years now. I don't remember now. So now, my attitude could be what I will get from you. What I can get from MPS. What I can get. That's all I'm thinking. Then it becomes selfish. Even though I'm talking all big things, it's a selfish action. Or if my attitude is what I can give to MPS. I have to give it in dosage. Like stress management is an important topic. Straight away, if I talk everything, you're not going to benefit. So slowly, I'm opening and making you understand. And then probably will have a long-term effect. The employees will benefit. So I'm thinking from the employee's point of view. So if I think from the employee's point of view, from the NPS point of view, then I'm working unselfish. So whether it is sweeping the floor or washing the vessel or anything it could be, just dusting the house, just simple things like this can be done unselfishly, not selfishly. So it's the attitude you have to change. And then you're going and waiting for the lift, and lift comes, and the elderly gentleman is also standing next to you. Okay, you could have come later and you could have gone first. Doesn't matter. He's an elderly gentleman. You say, after you go first, I'll come in next. That attitude, that unselfishness, That will make you sleep peacefully. See, in the next session, when I'm coming to mind and intellect, I'll talk about it more in detail. I only talked about action today because it comes under the body, because the body executes it. Therefore, in the food sheet, I talked about it. But I'll talk about it in more detail next week. But selfishness doesn't mean you have to do something great like going and working for an NGO. If you can do that, but if not, whatever you've been doing, change the attitude and do, that is unselfish. Is that okay, Sharat?
Thank you, Swamiji.
You're welcome. Any other question?
Hi Rahul, do you have any question to ask? Rahul Tiwari.
No, I don't have any question right now.
Okay. So thank you Swamiji for sharing your knowledge on various techniques to manage stress during difficult times. We have learned how to manage stress in personal and professional life from today's session. Swamiji, once again, thank you so much to motivate us. We're looking forward to another inspiring session in coming days. Dear MPS employee, thank you for your active participation. We are confident that today's session will help you to manage stress effectively. We'll be sharing the details for the next session in coming days. Have a good day. Stay safe and healthy. Thank you.